Good afternoon, and welcome to Everybody's Talking, an exclusive public affairs presentation of WCBO. Here is your host for today's show.
Good afternoon. What a joyous season this is. We are certain that you're busy preparing for the special holiday coming up, but we hope that you'll take time out and listen. We have a very special guest this afternoon. Our guest is Frank Vosler. Frank, welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
And we have a special treat for you. Most of the nation is preparing for the birth of Christ, but they're not centered on Jesus' birth nor on the Lord. And yet most Americans believe in God. We have some who are skeptical. Matter of fact, our whole society is filled with skepticism. Humanism reigns in the schools, in the media, everywhere. And you would think from looking around us that perhaps God doesn't even exist. We're going to talk about proofs for God this afternoon, and in a very special way, a way that I have not heard before. Frank, you have some very special thoughts on all of this.
Yes, I would like to talk about the transcendent proofs of God. However, there's been so much progress made in recent years in molecular biology that I can't pass the opportunity to say a few words about that. That comes under the heading of design. We live in a day and age when most of the people in the United States need to be strengthened in their faith that God exists. That has been greatly weakened. A century ago, people took that for granted. They may not have lived right, but they took it for granted. They were respectful of the Bible and respectful of ministers. But not today. God says that the invisible things of Him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. That's Romans 1:20. And that's true today. They are still without excuse because these things are clearly seen. But some people say, I don't see them clearly seen. I don't see them clearly. What has gone wrong? I don't see God. If He just make a big miracle in front of me, then I would believe in Him. Well, there are many kinds of evidence, but probably the most powerful are design in nature and the transcendent realm in which we constantly live each day of our lives. Now, for me, I'd like to say a little bit about design. It is the testimony of nature to its creator, the fingerprints of God in all He has made. This has been known from the beginning of the world. David exclaimed, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows His handiwork," in the 19th Psalm. This witness was obscured for a while by the teaching of Charles Darwin. But now the new science of molecular biology with its marvelous discoveries has driven back that cloud. The marvels in the many world of the living cell, the craftsmanship of God is perfect down to and including the atoms. Somebody told me how to distinguish between something man-made and something made by God. Man's most exquisite art or device will not withstand scrutiny through a high-powered optical microscope. All the rough edges, smearing, and tears will show up at a magnification of 1,000. Not so the things made by God. They are perfect even at a magnification of 1,000,000. Such is the marvel of a living cell. February 17th, year 2000, the Ledger of Lynchburg, Virginia, published an interview with a molecular biologist from which I would like to read an excerpt. He is a researcher in genetic controls in diseases. The interviewer, the reporter, is named George Taylor. We'll call him George. and the biologist will call Jay to protect his job. George, do you believe that the DNA information evolved? Jay, George, nobody I know in my profession believes it evolved. It was engineered by genius beyond genius, and such information could not have been written any other way. The paper and ink did not write the book. Knowing what we know, it is ridiculous to think otherwise. George, have you ever stated that in a public lecture or in any public writings? Jay, no, I just say it evolved. To be a molecular biologist requires one to hold on to two insanities at all times. One, it would be insane to believe in evolution when you can see the truth for yourself. Two, it would be insane to say you don't believe in evolution. All government work, research grants, papers, big college lectures, everything would stop. I'd be out of a job or relegated to the outer fringes where I couldn't earn a decent living. George, I hate to say it, but that sounds intellectually dishonest. Jay, the work I do in genetic research is honorable. We will find the cures to many of mankind's worst diseases. But in the meantime, we have to live with the elephant in the living room. George, what elephant? Jay, creation design. It's like an elephant in the living room. It moves around, takes up an enormous amount of space, loudly trumpets, bumps into us, knocks things over, eats a ton of hay, and smells like an elephant. And yet we have to swear it isn't there. Molecular biology is a godsend in our day, and hundreds of scientists are coming over to the side of creation science. But the militant Christ haters continue to keep the public and the school kids in the dark about creation. However, there is another powerful testimony to the spiritual world, and you don't have to be a scientist to understand this. It's a testimony about the transcendent world in which we all live and move and have our being. It has long been neglected by Christian defenders, and it's high time for us to take a fresh look at it.
Want to define it for us? A lot of people wouldn't know what you mean by transcendent.
Yes, that word has to be defined, but I'll do that by giving examples. It is all the non-material reality of which all of us are well acquainted, including life, thought, self-consciousness, love, joy, hope, beauty, values, conscience, desire, will, instincts, emotion, compassion, design, and such things. Now, I distinguish these things from material universe in this way. The material universe that science studies can be measured and weighed. These things cannot be measured or weighed. That's a simple differentiation. We know this transcendent world personally by introspection into ourselves. But do we all experience the transcendent the same way? And I say apparently we do. We all share a common vocabulary about such things, and we can understand each other when we describe our personal subjective experiences. This shows that the transcendent world of which we are inwardly aware is a reality and not just our imagination. Now, let's talk about reality a little bit. One of the three main areas of philosophy is ultimate reality. What is ultimate reality?
We really do exist then.
Yes. Oh, I believe in objective existence, objective reality. I'm not a relativist in that sense. Carl Sagan said on his program, the cosmos is all there is, all there ever was, and all there ever will be, worlds without end. This is an atheist statement, that the universe is just matter and energy and nothing more. But is that all there is to reality? Now, that Herbert Yockey, who did a lot of research on life, argued that life ought to be added to the other two. And so he proposed matter, energy, and life as three realities. In other words, he saw a sharp distinction between life that was not a mere secretion of matter and chemistry. Dr. Benjamin Gitt, who is a researcher on information, added a list of four realities: matter, energy, information, and will. He left out life, and it still intrigues me as to why he put in will. But there are many others that could be listed. I have a lengthened list here: matter, energy, time, space, natural laws, information, life, mind, value, which includes moral code, aesthetics, which includes beauty and pleasure, and will. And you can see from that matter and energy is not all there is out there. In fact, matter and energy constitutes a very small, relatively unimportant part of our lives.
You want to describe each of these?
Well, we give a brief description to some of them. Matter is the physical universe. Energy is the dynamic universe in motion. Time is very important to us. It takes time for us to learn and grow and experience. Then space is necessary to the dynamic universe. You cannot have motion without distance. So space makes the movement of matter or dynamics possible.
So we have a triverse, really.
Yeah,
Trinity.
well, this is for matter, energy, time, and space. I know there can be large arguments developed here as to which can separate from which and how distinct they are from each other. And then there's a fifth one I'll add, which is natural laws. And natural laws are our description of how matter and energy interact in cause and effect change. Since natural laws describe how the universe behaves, they came into existence at the moment the universe came into existence, and so cannot have anything to do with how the universe came into existence. Now, science has shown in recent years that the universe had a beginning.
So gravity was present right at God's creation.
It was part of creation of the universe. It did not. It was not there before the universe was there, because all we do is look at the universe and look at these chains of cause and effect and write out our descriptions of what we see, and we call them laws. So that's what a natural law is, a description of the universe. No universe, no description.
That's science.
That's science, right, and that's the whole science, incidentally, but limited by the scientific methods. Now, the following five entities are transcendent in essence. Some might say some of those first ones are transcendent, but we want to get into the matter of information, such as the DNA, information on our genes, and information in books. Now, Benjamin Gitt precisely weighed a silicon wafer with a large amount of information on it. He then erased all the information and weighed the wafer again, and he found it weighed exactly the same. So he concluded that information has no weight. Nobody knows how to measure the length or width of it, so it's not subject to scientific investigation in the sense that matter is. That's why I would place it in the transcendent realm.
Mm-hmm.
But we know it's real. We live by it. Books contain information not produced by the paper and ink. Likewise, the several encyclopedia sets worth of information in the DNA was not produced by the atoms of which it is composed. People who write books put their names in them, but who wrote the DNA?
You don't accept the idea that a bunch of monkeys could sit and write on a typewriter and eventually compose it on it?
No. They couldn't compose 7 coherent words. No, people have no idea about the laws of probability. They think, oh, it's just a small book. They'd get it eventually. No, they wouldn't. The laws of probability, you start running those mathematics, they go clear out of the universe. I'd like to talk a little bit about life. That's another important transcendent. When life leaves a cell or organism, all processes except decay come to a stop. If scientists had a perfect cadaver, which is a lifeless body, they could not bring it to life. So much has to be working at the same time in a symbiotic manner that the dead body could not be kick-started into a living state. Scientists do not understand the essence of life and can only define it in terms of what it does. All life does the following. It keeps the life processes going in each cell, in each organ. Seeks to dominate the environment. It engages in self-preservation or survival. It ingests low-order compounds from its environment, upgrades them into the high order of its own body. Thus, life acts contrary to the second law of thermodynamics, and so cannot be a natural entity, but must be transcendent. We said that life seeks to survive, but what survives best? Not complexity, but dirt. Dirt has survived for all the ages that the earth has been here. Life, without life, the complex would quickly decay back into the simple elements from which it came. The more complex things are, the more they have to be protected and maintained. So this desire to survive has to be explained by the evolutionists. The instinct to survive is essential to Darwinism, yet no one can find the natural law basis or origin for this instinct. Now, we need to talk about mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We think of some hypothetical scenario that we conjure up in our imagination. It is not a material reality, yet we can think about it. Such thoughts of non-reality must be transcendent. It cannot be derived from matter and energy. We also generally judge the brilliance or strength of a mind by the creativeness of the designs and analyses that it is able to produce. This is reasonable extrapolation, a procedure common to science. Why is it then that we attribute the theory of relativity to the mind of Albert Einstein, yet we attribute the brain that produced that theory to no mind at all, but to mindless, purposeless, random, swirling particles? A double standard is enforced. In their SETI program, its search for extraterrestrial intelligence, those huge radio telescopes, these same scientists are listening for patterned signals with enough complexity in order to signify the product of some mind. Yet when they see design all about them that displays intellectual brilliance far beyond the human level, they attribute it all to no mind at all, but to their god of chance, which Richard Dawkins called the blind watchmaker. Their war against God has made them insane. We can talk a little bit about value, another transcendent quality. And this includes all kinds of values. We speak about a value system. We must all adopt a value system. It's the most important thing in marriage, that two people share a very similar value system. We may as well say the same value system, although no two people are 100% the same in everything. But in this area, they must be very close together. They will be abrading on each other at odds. Now, in the moral system, we talk about good and evil. What is good? What is evil? So this is the second question of the three great questions of philosophy. First one is ultimate reality. The second one is good and evil, or the ultimate value. We go to two sources for that. One is our conscience, and one is the Bible. And I would like to talk about conscience here for a little bit. I think we'll not have time to get to the Bible, though that's very important also. I divided morality into three subsections: what is good for us, what is good for others, and what is good for God. Now, a special transcendental is our conscience, which argues with us and tells us things we don't want to hear. And so we conclude from that it is the voice of another who can communicate with our spirits without human language. If this were our own voice, we would only say the things that please us. But our conscience often tells us things we don't want to hear. We argue with it or try to silence it. It must be the voice of someone else who runs a moral kingdom and is watching our behavior and reading our thoughts and hearts. And the thought occurred to me the other day, I would like to make a bumper sticker that says, God is alive and he's taking notes.
Very good. I'll buy one.
All right, got a sale already. This is scary because we feel already convicted in our hearts and fear we won't do well in a day of judgment. It is to be noted also that conscience is approximately the same throughout the world, showing further that it is the voice of another, not our own imagination. So, from all these things, we know there is an almighty God, a spirit realm, and a moral kingdom, and probable judgment coming. Because of the threatened judgment, we must find out what this creator of the universe will do with us, and how we can save ourselves. We must have revelation that we cannot get from nature. Where can we find God and hear a word from his mouth? Such revelation is found in the Bible. Now, we have a little time at the end. We could come back to the subject of the Bible, yeah. But I'd like to say something about will. And Dr. Gitt included the will in his 4 items, and it's very important. Will explains miracle and 2 other things. It also makes possible evil. And God gave us wills, free wills. And yet he's very distressed about the evil we produced. So why didn't he make us robots? Well, the simple answer is that a robot cannot love. And love was so important to God that he took a chance on the free will and gave us all one.
I like that.
Now, what our free will does, it breaks the chains of cause and effect and starts new ones. This is a miracle by definition. We don't call it a miracle because it is so common. However, if the actor were invisible, such as an angel, we would call it a miracle. Or if the effect were so massive, we would be inclined to call it a miracle. Wills are really free, as we all know, within ourselves, and not chemically determined, as the atheists insist. The human being differs from an ape in many ways, and I just want to say that we are not members of the animal kingdom. We are spirit beings, more like the angels than like animals.
Homo sapiens doesn't fit them.
It does not fit. We are not one of the animal species. We have big brains. We take 12 to 16 years to fill our big brains with knowledge. We design and use tools. We have language with very large vocabularies. Those are the obvious differences, but they're not the only differences. What do we like to talk about? They communicate all over the world. We study the whole world, the whole universe. We are immortal spirit beings, like angels, capable of communicating with God. We are not animals. The gap between us and the animal world is immense. We must take moral responsibility for our decisions in life. The major reason for evil in the world is that many people in powerful positions do bad things, and God could have prevented all this simply by not giving us free wills. But He wanted us to love Him. First and greatest commandment is to love God with all the heart, mind, soul, and strength. And you may be sure that this is closely connected with His main reason for making us. Now, we'll take a question from the right heart.
So these transcendent matters, you don't think they could have been produced from molecules, or that the computer, we're getting more complex in the computer. They're getting pretty complicated, and one of these days some computer specialists tell me that they're going to be able to think. So do you think that a computer will ever think?
The computer will never think creatively. The best computer we have will only do what it's designed to do. It will not go beyond its design. You can put all kinds of wonderful things in there, but the computer cannot take off on its own and do things the designer never put into it.
And do you think that what you've related this afternoon is one of the more powerful arguments against evolution?
I think that it is a powerful argument because it's something everybody's conscious with. We don't have to ask for citations of authority. We know within ourselves all these things.
Now, if all this is true, and I agree with you, it is all true, why is it that out in the world, in the print media and in the schools and almost everywhere, even including Christian schools, that Darwinian evolution is king?
Well, you have to differentiate between those who are the militant fighters and those who are mispersuaded by them to go along. But there is a large coterie of people, and some of them are very intelligent, and some of them scientists, many of them scientists, who are at war with God over their own souls. I've got quotations, I don't have them with me, from famous scientists who have said in public or in their books that they believe evolution because it takes away from them the moral responsibility for moral life, for godly life. They don't have to worry about that. They like to erase that from their minds.
You've been working for many years in the field of creationism. We have just half a minute left. Are we making progress?
We are making progress, but most of the progress is in the science community so far, and out of sight of the general public. The ones that are fighting us most severely are in controlled schools and media and things like that.
The world will change dramatically when evolution is dropped?
Well, I think the individual warfare against God won't change dramatically. The Bible predicts that people wax worse and worse. However, I think that we're making progress on the creationist thing.
Frank, I wish we had another hour to discuss this. God bless you at this Christmas season. Thank you for preparing this, and we wish you all a very Christ-centered Christmas. Good afternoon.
Amen.
Everybody's Talking is a public affairs presentation of WCBO. The views and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the staff, management, or ownership of WCBO. You may request a cassette tape of this show by sending $5 to WCBO, Post Office Box 7, New Albany, Ohio, 43054. Mention Everybody's Talking and today's date. Thanks for listening.